Thank you for reading all this, by the way.
Oh,
Your capacity
seriously?
to read far
I'm
exceeds my dyslexic ability to do so.
no
Um,
joke. Yeah, condition called neurodiversity. I show markers of dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD, and Asperger's syndrome. And
all
I
right,
am having a good day with reading, apparently, because normally I'd be stumbling
you're
over my
crushing it,
words.
man.
But damn. So yeah, all over the place with that. I'm feeling good about the reading. I can do this. I can read.
You can. Forbidden, thanks for the resub, man. All right, so
Mhm.
that was kind of the story of the hive taking them from where they came from, where they were at, what they were doing, and then when they finally made the decision to turn themselves immortal and accept sort of a new form of logic to existing. And now we start the second set of verses.
Mm. And verse 20 starts with a card that's literally embodying everything that they just accepted, which is called Immortals. So you can tell what they chose. We are the worm gods. Sorry, we are the worm, your god. The flesh of hope. Our compact is done. You are Ulrush eternal. And we are bound to you as close as your appetites, as your loves or needs, as the weapon in your fists and the word in your throat. We've had enough of this dismal place. Haven't you? We are entangling your ship. Wait a second. We are entangling your ship with larvae. Go back to your species. Spread the good news in the Osmium Court, and the Hydrogen Fountain, and the Bone Plaza, and the Star Surgery. You will rise up into the world. If anyone rejects symbiosis with our children, make an example of them. A mighty wave is coming for them all. They die anyway. Save only what can be saved. The worm grants you power over your own flesh, Rush. When you've taken the King North, what will your adult name be? Ulrix. It means long thought. We approve. And so there's one of these cards for each of the siblings, right?
Yeah.
And in this instance, each of them, as they choose their adult form, it shows off a really interesting thing about the hive symbiosis, right? So all of them start in their younger years, and they have just this base generic form. They're siblings, right? And it appears, and it's not entirely clear, but it appears that at this point in their lives, they're all female when they're born, and then they get to change and choose a different gender at a certain point in time. Now, it's not entirely clear whether they remain female or anything like that, but there are some parts of their society that definitely do, such as the wizards. There are others that can be questioned, such as the knights. And there are some morphs which most definitely will turn you male, such as the king morph. So this is the point at which Ulrash, being the navigator and the first child, is going to accept the king morph when she rises back up, and that changes everything, including her name. And this is that weird point I was talking about. You can now forget about the names Ulrash, Shiro, and Sathona, because it's
Yeah.
about to change to Aurix, spelt not as Oryx,
Not
but
Oryx
A.
yet, yeah.
No, because amazingly, there's a third name change.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
there's a third name for Oryx, which is Oryx itself, but right now it's Auryx. I'll type that out in the chat again. But you also have Shiro changing to Shivorath, and Sathona changing to Savathun. So totally different names because they are sort of reborn in this instance, not just because of, the changing that they naturally do when they become sort of, adult hive, but also because of the fact that, they've just accepted this massive pact. They're now immortal. They're basically almost godlike, if you can go ahead and compare them to the gods in front of the worms. So
Yeah.
it's pretty important stuff.
Interesting dichotomy. Yeah.
Anyway,
Awesome.
next one is Conquerors, and this one is all about Savathun. Savathun, mother morph of Saphona, we delight in your sharp mind. For millions of years the Leviathan caged us here. It is a pawn of the sky, a philosophy of cosmic slavery. The sky seeds civilizations predicated on a terrible lie, that right actions can prevent suffering, that pockets of artificial rules can defy the beautiful final logic. This is like This is like trying to burn water, antithetical to the nature of reality. where deprivation and competition are universal. In the deep, we wow, words. We
If you want to
enslave.
switch off here, it's fine, man. If you
No, it's fine. Seriously, I'm totally cool.
All right.
In the deep, we enslave nothing. Liberation is our passion. We exist to help the universe achieve its terminal, self-forging glory. The war rages on. Soon it will consume Fundament. We are pleased with your use of our larvae to create mighty knights and powerful warriors. Teox's retreat to the hydrogen fountain proves your superior strength. But you must know that reclaiming your home is not enough. There are 511 species living on Fundament. One of them must have the technology you need to leave this world. So already you can sort of see where the end game, at least for the Fundament side of the story, is for the worm gods, right? They've escaped the clutches of the Leviathan. Now they've risen up to the surface with Ulrush, Ulrich, Sathona, and Shivor-Wrath. God, Savathun and Shivor-Wrath. Names everywhere. And, you know, now they're just saying, okay, now that we're here, and now that we've helped you build an army and take everything back, you want vengeance on Teox, which is a very convenient crutch for them, because they want to get off of the planet. And they realize that they can't stop the CCG, so they're just going to leave Fundament behind, because after all, you know, their planet, the planet of Ulrichs and all those other people, it crashed into Fundament ages ago. So technically, this isn't even their real home. Their real home is destroyed. They can have a home in the stars wherever, and it's the logical place to escape. So that's kind of leading into the next card, so to speak. And this is where everything is kind of focusing a little bit on the ZZG, but also on Shivor-Wrath. So, card, verse 2-2, Out of the Deep. Shivor-Wrath, Night Morth of Gyro. You love to conquer, don't you? We see you at work. Nearly 2% of Fundament's surface is now our dominion. Your species embraces the worm. The CCG has passed. The God Wave will reach you in less than 2 years. Our organs inform us that Teox and her surviving refusalists flee towards Kahan Atoll. She hopes to rally the species of Fundament against you. The Leviathan's agents work tirelessly to destroy ships and engines, trapping us on Fundament. If we cannot make ships, we will become them. Overwhelm the Kahan Bastion. Slaughter everyone there. From your acts, we shall obtain the logic we require to cut space open and migrate to orbit. Reality is the finest flesh, O General ours. Let us feast of it. That last line is really important because it's almost word for word the quote on the skull of Dara Hamkara.
Exactly. Exactly.
So again, more stuff.
Driving the link home that like the Hive and the Ahamkara are very, at the very least, connected in some way, if not the exact same things.
Well, the worm gods at least. The Hive are definitely a different species.
Well,
but
yeah,
it's
that's
still,
what I meant to say.
It's such a tasty
I said the wrong
link,
words.
But yeah, this is the point at which, you know, they're very much under pressure now. The clock is ticking. The CCG has passed, and, you know, Teox and the surviving people who are not saying that they want to take the worm, they've gone to Kahan Atoll. They're going to fortify among the remaining species of Fundament. And this is the point at which Shivor-Wrath is really going to kick ass properly for the first time. And her slaughter is really the first true lesson of the sword logic. She's going to ruthlessly kill everyone in there, and that's going to give the worm gods power through the sword logic. That's what they're going to use to, quote, cut space open and migrate to orbit. So you know how when you have tomb ships coming in, they sort of have that moment where they phase in all of a sudden, there's almost a portal that opens?
Yeah.
From my perspective, I think that it's a very similar concept to what the worms are doing here, and to what most of the stuff happens with the Taken, and what's like with them, because literally, it's almost like what warlocks and hunters do when they blink. What you're sort of doing is you're cutting a pair of holes in reality and stepping through. So their entire plan is, you're going to go ahead and step through this portal, and then you're going to be on the moons above in space. And that's how we'll escape.
Yeah. So they aren't, currently the worms are not powerful enough to pull this off, but after the massacre they will have enough power to do so.
And that next card sort of talks about this. It says,
Yep.
Into the sky. You've done well, Aurex. Can you feel the growth of your worm? Can you feel your will beginning to warp mere law? At times we detect sadness in you. Understand, Lon Thinker, that you enact a sacred and majestic task. Existence is the struggle to exist. Only by playing the game to its final unconditional victory can we complete the universe. Your war is divine work. We are free of Fundament's core, and Savathun's cutters are ready to fly. With Shivu Arath victorious, we have opened a wound at Kahan, a wound leading to geostationary orbit. Behold, we are faithful in our covenant. We have no future on Fundament, but her moons will make fine habitats. Let us rise. So, cutters, the Savathun's cutters, I presumed were ships at the time being, seeing as it says, are ready to fly. So, that's the point at which you're sort of presuming that the Hive now have this technology to navigate space. It's a bit of a jump, but it does make some sense seeing as they are going there.
True.
Again, they make reference to the wound leading to geostationary orbit. Again, that's kind of the portal they talk about as a wound, and they reference this later on when they talk about things getting taken. But in short, it's a wound in the fabric of reality. So that's kind of really cool to think about, just because it sort of shows a vague idea of what the process of us blinking is, and of the Hive teleporting in.
Yeah, and that has basis in other pieces of Grimoire as well, especially when you read about the lore for like Voidwalkers, where they talk about, you know, if you're Voidwalker, you're going to be accused of using the same sort of magic and evil that the Hive do by other Guardians and things like that. So I think it's a really solid point that I had not considered before. This Bife guy is great. You should go follow him on YouTube and everywhere.
Dude, cheeky little plug, I'm not going to lie. We're nearly at 300,000 subscribers over on the channel.
Oh, make it happen.
Dude, I have a rebrand ready with new intro and everything. It's going to be so exciting.
Man, Bife, that's amazing.
Cheeky,
get him there, guys.
Cheeky.
Mods,
Very
give him a hearty spam. No, dude, you're here, man. You're helping me. The least I can do is help you.
Thank you. Yes, next card is 52-1, verse 2-4. And this is just after they've ascended, and they've gone through, and they've left Fundament. Good news! The 52 moons of Fundament host a star-faring civilization far more sophisticated than anything you've encountered so far. Teox's ship fled towards the large ice moon, where a species of bony six-armed cephalopods keeps their icy capital. Savathuns named them the Ammonite. They seem eager to grant Teox asylum. Idiots. We tried appealing to their hopes and dreams. This was largely unsuccessful because they're already happy and indoctrinated. This angered us, so we devised a plan. Our organs detect a 53rd moon in orbit of Fundament. A traveler. Divine presence of the sky. So we know what arranged the ZZG. You'll have to kill them all and take their stuff. Once the Ammonite are out of the way, we can deal with the Traveler. Do not hesitate. You're fighting the hypocritical puppets of a cosmic parasite. Avenge your ancestors. So again, that's the super important point in the card where people who think the Traveler is evil can totally be like, "But tried to kill them before they were even evil." It's wiping people out, it caused the God Wave. But the thing is, we still don't know if it actually caused the God Wave. So, yeah, that's all over the place as far as speculation goes.
There's all kinds of speculation, like, oh, well, the Traveler knew about all of these worm gods that were living inside and it was trying to wipe them out, or like maybe the Traveler was just being evil and trying to kill a whole bunch of shit. Like, there's so many different perspectives, that could happen there. But this is, you know, when we first encounter Destiny and you first look at the lore, it talks about how every race that we are fighting right now has been at one point or another touched or visited by the Traveler, and that is how they were made aware of its strength or evil, or created their desire to chase it down all the way to where we are at. So this is the
Precisely.
Hive's first encounter, and Oryx's first encounter with the Traveler directly.
Yeah, and sadly not a very positive one on that, but still, it's super fascinating to see. Some other important points. A lot of people ask when they see the 6-armed cephalopods point if the Ammonite is another way of saying the Fallen, and
Yeah.
no, that is not true because the Fallen are 4-armed and they're not cephalopods. So yeah, that's a thing. Just in case. I've had people ask the question before. Something that's also really cool to note is just the way that you can sort of tell the worm gods are a little manipulative from this card, right?
Yeah.
So you'll notice in the next card that they speak in these really long words, but in some of the cards they directly try to appeal to that, we're the plain honest worm kind of thing,
Yeah, we're nice.
So
and
in this
simple.
one, they literally say, they seem eager to grant Teox asylum. Pff, idiots. It's like, it's plain spoken, disrespectful, almost as though they're speaking on the level of, people that are basically their servants, which is crazy to think about, just because you look at the next cards and, again, it becomes very, very apparent. Speaking of, 2/5, Born as Prey. This is a really important point because they've started, the Hive have, well, the Proto-Hive, as they're still basically, they've started the war against the Ammonite and against the Traveler, and they are losing freaking hard. They are just going down in flames right now. This is unacceptable. Are you so weak, born as prey and doomed to die by Predator? Ulrich's failure of resolve led us to catastrophe. The Ammonite fleets under Chrome Admiral Rafreet have pressed us back to the 6th moon. Once more, we find ourselves burrowing into a world's core to survive. Savathun, you must draw Ulrich out of his catatonia. Make him understand that the ideas of peace and stability he clings to are cancers, brutal, unjust obstacles between us and a fair cosmos. These are the bait stars the sky uses to blind its slaves. War is the natural recertification of inequality, the universe's way of pursuing equilibrium. Shivu Araf, you cannot defeat the Ammonites and Teox in line combat. We propose a new tactic. Breed your armies back to strength and find a way to disperse the broods across these many moons. If we cannot defeat their strengths, we will infect their weaknesses. So, yeah, they're losing hard, and partly it's because Ulrich is not being as ruthless as he can potentially be. He's not truly embraced the sword logic, and this is the lesson that they're trying to teach all of them. Savathun and Shivu Arath, they're A+ students. Right now, everybody is concerned about Ulrich, who's coming home with a U, and if his father was still around, rip, then it would be a very, very bad day to look at the report card, It's just, it's bad at this point. So they're trying to pull him out of this nonsense. And they do try and teach this to him. And the thing is, he is bound by his worm, and he does eventually get drawn out of the catatonia. Next card reads as this, and it's literally leading on from that. At last, we knew curiosity would bring you back, Ulrich. In their desperation, the Ammonite have begun using paracausal weapons. What are these? How do they work? You wouldn't like to know, or wouldn't you like to know? Suffice to say that some powers in the universe are superordinate to mere material physics. Small point on this note. Paracausal is a word that comes up, and it's a really freaking complex one. I'll explain what it means later. For now, just think of it as they're kind of like guardians. Okay?
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is scary stuff.
This is things that Bife noticed that I didn't notice. This is great. Awesome. Can't wait to hear about that.
The source of these weapons is the Traveler, the sky's bait star. Their effect is subtle but devastating. But you are armed to respond in kind. Savathun's mothers have listened carefully to our teachings. We will not give you the deep, King Ulrich. That power is for us, your gods, but we will teach you to call upon that force with signs and rituals. Small minds might call it magic. You are no longer bound by causal closure. Your will defeats law. Kill 100 of your children with a long blade, Auryx, and observe the change in the blade. Observe how the universe shrinks from you in terror. Your existence begins to define itself. Of course, High Auryx, we know it was not curiosity alone that brought you back to the war. You felt your own death growing inside you. You must obey your nature. Your worm must feed. So this is, again, really important because it defines kind of the level on which darkness and light fight in this. Mm-hmm. It's all about that word paracausal, right? Yeah. So paracausal, the best way I can demonstrate it is by talking about how destiny works. Right? My proof, again, for most individuals in destiny, their sort of fate is determined in the same way the Vex see it, right? It's, what's the best way of describing it? It's a set point, right? It's mathematically calculable, and let's say you go back and there's that one theory about how the universe starts where if you did all of the maths going back to the original point, you could potentially predict the future by estimating the movement of molecules and atoms, etc. So everything has one set course that's always going to follow, and fate is always going to work out like that. There's the other version of fate, which states that you can choose your own destiny, right? And paracausal individuals, or people with paracausal power or paracausal weapons, basically allow you to do that in a universe where everything else has a determined fate. So this is what everything in Destiny is talking about when it says things like, your existence begins to define itself, and see how the universe shrinks from you in terror. It's literally a case by observing one kind of power from either the dark or the light, you can actually bend the universe to your will and feasibly change your own destiny. So that's where it gets really interesting. So the paracausal stuff that we get is the light of the Traveler, and we as Guardians are an embodiment of that. The paracausal power that the darkness, at least Oryx and his minions get, is the sword logic, which is that deep claim, and it's this very deep understanding of the very nature of the universe as being harsh and cruel. And they use that power through the signs and runes that are being taught to them by the worm gods at this exact moment in time. Oryx learns it much more intimately later on, but that's basically just to give you an idea of the scale on which this war isn't being fought. It's not just being fought with bombs and fleets and soldiers, it's being fought quite literally on a level that is to do with the very fate and fabric of the universe itself. That's how deep this conflict has already gotten. And the Hive aren't technically even the Hive yet.
They're not starting it, they're just jumping in like midway.
Exactly.
Kind of,
it's not even midway. It's like, this is literally the equivalent of this is the equivalent of putting a 3-year-old in the driving seat of a tank. You know, you're like saying, hey, this is a very, very powerful piece of equipment. Use it wisely. By the way, there's guys over there that we really don't like. Go do your thing. You know,
I got
it's freaking crazy when you think about everything that they're doing. Even with the sword logic having just been explained to him, he doesn't get it. Auryx still fails, and between this card and the next one, which is 2-7, the weakness verse, he basically caves and he arranges a parley with the Ammonite. He wants peace talks. And immediately upon seeing this, the worm gods are just kind of like, okay, facepalm. Savathun, we need you to do us a favor. First of all, get your witches to poison the ground on which the meeting is going to happen. Second of all, kill Auryx. We're going to teach him a lesson. Kill Auryx. I'm not kidding when I say that, but there's a very good reason why that's not such a final statement. So the card reads as this. You are dead, young Auryx. Betrayed and murdered by your own sister for the crime of mercy. Remember what you said to the Ammonite Satellite Congress? We will parley with you on neutral ground. Savathun's witches have rendered it utterly neutral. No living thing will ever claim it again. The space around the dry moon stinks of rot. This is good. This is right. You will learn from this. Don't you understand, great king? Don't you want to build something real, something that lasts forever? Our universe gutters down towards cold entropy. Life is an engine that burns up energy and produces decay. Life builds selfish, stupid things. Morality is one of them, and the sanctity of life is another. These rules are impediments to the great work. The work to build a perfect, undying creation, a civilization everlasting, something that cannot end. If a civilization cannot defend itself, it must be annihilated. If a king cannot hold his power, he must be betrayed. The worth of a thing is determined only by one beautiful arbiter, the thing's ability to exist, to go on existing, to remake existence to suit its survival. All that would oppose this arbiter is unholy and false. All the misery and terror of your ancestors springs from the lies of the sky, who deny this truth. Your ancestors endured the most hostile conditions, and now you must go on creating those conditions, even unto your sisters, even unto your offspring. Savathun's betrayal is the greatest gift she could offer you. Your body is gone, but you've endured. Safe in the cyst in the universe created by your own might, your throne world. From this day forward, Auryx, you and your sisters will each survive death as long as you aren't killed in your own throne. Even as your sisters press the attack against the Ammonites, the God Wave devastates Fundament. Trillions will die, but the survivors will never forget, and their descendants will be ready for another CCG. When you return to the material universe, use this lesson to complete your work. Teox wasn't on the dry moon. She must be laughing at you. And this is the point, I believe, at which Oryx finally learns, okay, I accept the sword logic. I've been betrayed. It's pretty clear now. This is the final shape of the universe. This is what I have to do to be successful. And, you know, it's so telling because this is the first of many deaths that each of these siblings will suffer at each other's hands. But man, is it it's a really thrilling kind of mechanic because all of a sudden, this is what now defines the relationship of the siblings, right? It's now a case of, like, literally there's a card later on down the line which says, you know, our love is war, or words to that effect.
Exactly, yeah. Their relationship with each other and the way that they express their care and love for one another is to mercilessly destroy each other constantly.
Precisely.
Because they are in that way saying, I killed you this way, don't let it happen again. And they help each other learn how to become more and more powerful by killing each other.
Strength to strength. And literally, it says this in a card a few cards down the line, where literally they're at war with each other again for 10,000 years or so. Or 20,000 years, I think it is.
Yeah,
and it's literally, it's acting on... Yeah, it's acting on that principle. They just kill each other over and over again so they can become stronger and stronger. And that's how they initially start to learn the sword logic. But yeah, other things that are important in this card. I don't know if there's anything too important aside from the fact that, you know, clearly, meeting point
we learn about the throne room, or throne world.
Oh yeah, the throne world.
The throne world is extremely important. It's something it's why we had to kill Crota the way that we killed Crota, you know, and it's why we had to kill Oryx the way that we killed Oryx. We had to go to where they actually live and kill them there.
So
because
earlier
that's
we got
their true existence.
Yeah, exactly. Earlier we got a really interesting question about, is the needle the dreadnought? The throne, the cyst in the universe that's been referred to, technically that's sort of the earliest beginnings of the dreadnought. You'll find out about that way, way, way far down in the cards. That's something like, you know, verse 4.1 or verse 4.0. Point is, it's a really, really weird thing to talk about. But for the time being, think of this as the earliest form of the dreadnought that Oryx gets, and the most important fact about this is that if they're killed in the material universe, so basically anything other than the throne worlds, then they're fine. They'll just sort of respawn there, they'll grow back to power, and then they can re-emerge into the material universe. If they're killed in their throne worlds, it's what's known as a true death. And that is the point at which they've really died, which again is explaining exactly what you were saying earlier about Oryx and Crota. So, yeah, most important point. Also, slight mention here. This is I have a huge whiteboard or blackboard, literally with a mind map of this stuff drawn out. But this talks about the earliest evidence about there being two sort of parallel universes in Destiny. One which I call the Materium, and the other which is the Netherverse, which, and it's like this really weird divide, but there's lots of indications that the Vex and the Hive sort of share the Netherverse or the psychomutable Netherverse in that same space. So the Vex use it to time
especially with what comes later and those encounters, that totally fucking makes sense.
And there's so many different references that pull all of this together. It's even as deep as Toland and Osiris. The Vex and the Hive cross paths a lot. The Throne Worlds are constantly in this other space. There's just, again, millions upon millions of references. But next card, I think, is where we should be heading. And it's exciting. Sure. It's the Leviathan Rises. This is the point at which they're sort of starting to win the war again. And lo and behold, the Leviathan all this time has been back down on Fundament. Now it's rising up again, and this is the point at which we learn that it can actually travel through space. Because it wasn't OP enough already.
Because it wasn't ridiculous in the first place.
The Leviathan has broken cover. The old priest is in open space, moving towards the Ammonites' home moon. Chroma Admiral Rafrit and his elite guard move with it. Rafrit is the hero of his generation, an Ammonite of peerless battlecraft. He danced circles around Ziva-Arath, but now he has to protect his holy Leviathan. We'll give the old lunk a word. And this is the Leviathan speaking now. Ruin, grief and ruin. The Krill lost, the Ammonite ravaged, our traveller's work undone. Sisters of Aurash, open your eyes. Who made you monsters? Who summoned the wave? Make peace and join with me in golden renewal. In counter-argument, Aurix, we ask you this. What has the Leviathan done for your people? Who gave you immortality and led you out of your prison? Who answers your questions about the universe with truth instead of sermons? Find détente with Savathun, crush the Chroma Admiral, boil the Ammonite seas, and slaughter the Leviathan with witchcraft. Once the way is open, we'll show you how to eat the traveller. And so that's the point at which it's very clear to see, okay, we had two choices ahead of us way back when the Leviathan first contacted us, and it's very bad. But also it shows the other side of the story of the ZZG, you know, that potentially it could have been caused by the worm gods themselves. So crazy stuff going on there, because it means that one of these groups, maybe both, has they have the power to alter the gravity and alignment of moons, which is, again, you know, as if being immortal and not being able to be killed was crazy enough. You know, Scions have expressed a similar power with their ability to move Phobos around. It doesn't mean they're the same, but it just shows these individuals are stupidly powerful. They're playing with forces that are nonsense, even though they're not really reaching into paracausal levels of power just yet. And the next one sort of explains what happens at the end of the conclusion of this next big fight. Crusaders. It's done. Aya and Yul feed on the Leviathan's carcass. Shivu-Arath has made a temple of the Chroma Admiral's impaled corpse. Below us, Savathun's poisons stain the Ammonite home sea black. Their screams flavor the void. The traveller has fled. Do you understand, Oryx? Do you thrill at the secret, Savathun? Do you relish the edge of this truth, Shivu-Arath? Do you see the beautiful shape? The Ammonite occupied a piece of reality. They rented their existence on fraudulent terms, making themselves happy and fat, fencing themselves in, soft lies and sweet apocrypha, saying, we are peaceful and good, we harm nothing. Their golden age was a cancer. They did nothing to advance the causes of life. They burnt up time and matter and thought on this solipsistic, onanistic pursuit of safety, insulating themselves from death, making a regressive pocket of useless stability, when they could have helped whittle the universe towards its final perfect form. And your people, suffering in the deep, you became more worthy of existence than the Ammonite. You have proven it. Look around the sky. Behold the great divide, the battle lines of the cosmic war. We are the worm, your god. But we are not the deep itself. We only move with it. You shall too. You shall venerate and study it, and haunt in its passage. Will you lift your thoughts to the millennia, Aurochs? Will you bend your will to the liberation of the universe and join us in the war against the sky? We need champions, crusaders. Help us save the universe. Help us exterminate that which would destroy all hope. You are oath-bound to this task by the covenant of the worm. You are oath-bound to kill Teox, wherever she's hidden herself.
So, yeah, Ammonite are dead. Leviathan's pretty dead. Traveler's like,
yeah, no, the
shit.
Leviathan and all of the Ammonites have been totally massacred.
Mm-hmm. And the Traveler's like, I'm gonna get the fuck out of Dodge. Bye,
the
guys.
Traveler
Adios.
said, "Peace, peace out." And I think it's interesting. An interesting thing to point out is that in the previous verse and then leading into this one, the goal of the worm was not to get Oryx and the other hive gods to simply fight and destroy, these people who represent a different way of thinking, but and it wasn't just to destroy the Traveler, it was to consume the Traveler, to eat it. I always thought that was a really interesting point.
Exactly. And there's so much to deconstruct in this one, but the line, their golden age was a cancer, it literally shows
Direct
how
golden
cyclical
age.
that... Exactly. The process of being visited by the Traveler is almost cyclical, and the Ammonite, in this sense, are the first race ever to be recorded as being destroyed by the darkness, which is terrifying if you think about it, seeing as the darkness are technically just acting through Oryx and the worm gods, but it shows that this is the very beginning of that crazy cycle. And it shows a lot of stuff about how the sword logic works. So your people suffered in the deep, they became more worthy of existence than the Ammonite, you've proven it. It's just, there's a lot of cool stuff in this card, and next thing, the hive stop being the krill and they actually become the hive.
Yeah.
So this is
It's a
verse
huge
3-0.